You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday the 5th of December. Climate change do-gooders to give £70 of your money per household to Third World. Tory backbencher Philip Hollobone opens his eyes to immigration. Rap music fan who shouted nigger at a black man is cleared of racism. Belgium, jihad on Christmas trees, welcome to Christmas cubes. Bomb explodes at offices of Greek far-right party, no injuries. Police arrest 2 accomplices in Toulouse gunman attacks. Amsterdam to create Scum villages. Italy and France on the fence waiting for a Euro handout. Protesters burnt portraits of the district chief. Iran claims to have shot down US drone. Thought for the day, just what is the truth? And finally, and the Robin went bobbing along. UK news. Without even asking the British people in referendum, the government has suggested in its do-goody-goody style at the G7 to give £2 billion to help the Third World go green. Wind farms are to be set up in Africa at the cost of £70 per British household. One World at 8 reporter commented, the price of putting your bin out to be collected has just gone up. A Tory backbencher has commented on the destruction of British countryside that will be destroyed from the influx of immigrants wanting new homes in Britain. He spoke out in a Commons debate where he claimed that when the laws are relaxed next year, around 270,000 Romanians and Bulgarians will be allowed to come into Britain and will need housing. One nationalist for the World at 8 commented, "Tell your leader David Cameron to close the bloody borders." Snow closes airports overnight. Overnight snow brought Luton airports to a standstill today. Luton Stansted Airport was also closed while airport staff cleared snow from the runways. The snow had fallen overnight, causing delays to passenger safety. Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire have had the biggest snowfall up to now. A rap-mad music fan who shouted nigger at a black man has walked free from court after magistrates agreed he had just been using street slang. Christopher Jones was arrested after he was overheard aiming the offensive word at a group of men in Stoke-on-Trent, Staffordshire on September the 10th. But the sign writer claimed he couldn't be racist because he listened to hip-hop music, had more black friends than white friends, and this is what he called everyone. Police charged him with using racially aggravated words or behaviour, and Jones was hauled before magistrates last week. As he was cleared of racist abuse after successfully arguing that he regularly uses the word nigger as a term of endearment on the streets around his home. A nationalist spokesperson commented, "Does this rule apply to black people calling us white honkies and worse? Does it apply to Muslims calling Christian vile pigs? Of course not. The police are never there, are they? This is one of the many rules that does not apply to all." European news. More than 25,000 people in Belgium have signed a petition denouncing a decision to remove the traditional Christmas tree in the central square in Brussels and replace it with a politically correct structure of abstract minimalist art. Critics accuse the socialist mayor Freddie Tielemans of declaring war on Christmas by installing the multicultural structure of lights to placate the city's burgeoning Muslim population. A World at 8 reporter states, "Why are we and the Europeans pandering to these people? We should take a line from Japan and ignore them and stop all future immigration from Muslim countries. Bring on the bells, the nativity, the trees and the Christmas carols. Show them there was life and a better life in these countries before they came." Athens, Reuters. A makeshift bomb exploded at the offices of the far-right political party Golden Dawn near Athens early on Tuesday, ripping through a wall and smashing the windows of a nearby building, but causing no injuries, the police said. Golden Dawn has surged in popularity during Greece's debt crisis and was catapulted from obscurity to winning 7% of the vote in parliamentary elections in June, riding a wave of public anger at austerity, corrupt politicians and immigrants. Activists and politicians have called for the ultra-nationalist party to be banned. French police on Tuesday arrested 2 alleged accomplices of gunman Mohamed Merah, whose Al-Qaeda-inspired shooting spree in and around the southern city of Toulouse left 7 people dead. A man described by police as a member of the traveller community was arrested in the southern town of Albi, while his former partner was arrested in Toulouse, a police source said. They were detained on suspicion they helped Merah in carrying out his attacks in March. Merah's elder brother, Abdelghani, previously told French media that the gunman had accomplices, including someone from the traveller community, who may well have been involved in stealing the scooter Merah used in his attacks. Merah shot a rabbi, 3 Jewish schoolchildren and 3 French paratroopers in March, before being shot dead in a police siege. A petty criminal who was lured into Islamic extremist circles in Toulouse, Merah visited Afghanistan and Pakistan before his attacks. Amsterdam is to create scum villages where nuisance neighbours and antisocial tenants will be exiled from the city and rehoused in caravans or containers with minimal services, under constant police supervision. Holland's capital already has a special hit squad of municipal officials to identify the worst offenders for a compulsory 6-month course in how to behave. Social housing problem families or tenants who do not show an improvement or refuse to go on the special units face eviction and homelessness. Eberhard van der Leyen, Amsterdam's Labour mayor, has tabled the £810,000 plan to tackle 13,000 complaints of antisocial behaviour every year. He complained that long-term harassment often leads to law-abiding tenants rather than their nuisance neighbours being driven out. This is the world turned upside down, the mayor said at the weekend. The project also involves setting up a special hotline and system for victims to report their problems to the authorities. The new punishment housing camps have been dubbed scum villages because the plan echoes a proposal from Geert Wilders, the leader of the populist Dutch right-wing party, for special units to deal with persistent troublemakers. Repeat offenders should be forcibly removed from their neighbourhood and sent to a village for scum, he suggested last year. Put all the trash together. Italy and France are at the centre of one big controversial €26 billion project, the building of a new rail line through the Alps to cut train times from Paris to Milan. The 2 Euro countries are looking for the EU to subsidise the 35-mile tunnel cutting its way through the mountains. Transport officials have written an agreement between the Italians and French to make sure the project stays on the table. Socialist French President Hollande said that the 40% needed would all depend on the state of the EU budget. The suggestion of the railway through the Alps stretches back over 20 years, when officials said that it should be finished by the year 2025. Officials say it would be more likely to be 2028 before the project would be completed. Britain and Germany are currently blocking funding increases that exceed the rate of inflation. World News. An Indonesian official is facing calls for his resignation after it emerged he divorced a teenager by text message following 4 days of marriage. Asen Fikri, the elected head of Garut in West Java province, has publicly apologised amid the outcry. Hundreds protested against him on Tuesday. Mr Fikri, 40, is married with 3 children and took the 17-year-old as his second wife in a Muslim ceremony. He divorced her after reportedly discovering she was not a virgin. The Iranian government is claiming that its military has shot down an American drone aircraft. On state TV yesterday, the Iranians claimed that the American drone aircraft came into its airspace and was shot down over the Gulf. The US Navy say they have not lost the drone and claim the reports are false. The dreaded typhoon named Bopha has struck the Philippines. In its path and showing no mercy to houses, fishing boats and other wooden buildings on its way inland, killing a staggering almost 300 people with hundreds missing. Aid is already on its way from various countries as rescue teams mobilise to find the missing, help the injured and to bury the dead. Thought for the day. Do we ever get the truth from the media? Now, I've spoken about the media and television many times, and yet they still give me reason to doubt whether they ever act for the good of this country or merely to fulfil their master's will of blanketing what really counts to us as a people and filling our eyes and hearts with the useless, banal and in some cases the downright untruths of certain things. Firstly, the matter of gun crime and guns in general. It was the Tonight programme that boasted this little bit of inanity and misinformation from the shelves of ITV. Now, on a personal level, even taking into account the terrible consequences of children getting hold of guns, of people going mad and running around shooting people, I think we should be allowed under licence and investigation to own a firearm for personal defence if necessary. I think the police should be armed and be told to defend British property and lives if necessary, not sit on the sidelines and watch rioters and looters as they did last summer. Now, of course, I'll incur the wrath of people who say no one, nowhere, should ever have a gun. But the sad fact of life today is that the only people who have guns are the criminals, despite the multi-page editorials when some poor white bugger goes apeshit and kills innocent people, which is truly terrible. The sad fact is cigarettes do not kill without someone to smoke them. Drink cannot kill without someone to drink it. Drugs will not kill if not taken, inhaled or injected, and guns do not kill unless fired by a human being of whatever ethnicity or religion. I cannot understand the nanny state which seems to impose inhuman rules on humans. If a man decides to kill, since time immemorial he will find something to do it with. The United States has guns, and although I personally do not think hunting animals for food or sport is relevant in today's society, the right to defend oneself and family is in their constitution under the right to bear arms. Now, in our country today, there are thousands of criminals and people who do not adhere to the British way of life, who probably have the means to obtain large amounts of firearms which would affect our personal space and that of our families. The powers that be know this and will fight to the death to avoid any red-blooded Englishman possessing any means of defence should civil unrest arise. Thus we have programmes clearly motivated by the anti-gun lobby, the Greens and the scions of common purpose. This particular one was a doozy, in which the actors were all white, the victims were the two white policewomen, one Asian and one African. So you see the way in which this programme has been moulded to suit the liberal lovies of the land. The presenter looked as if she was about to faint at the thought of guns in general, and adopted that awful condescending look of pity when interviewing the apparent main cause of all our gun crime, that of an American who bought guns in America, legally, and shipped them over here to sell illegally. Of course, if anyone had a brain, they would know that some of the most prolific suppliers of guns are the Eastern European gangs, the Turks, the Rastas and the African gangs, and by African I'm including the mixed Asian, black, mixed race gangs, all of whom buy and carry guns. Of course, if the Chinese triads want to do away with anyone, they'll sail through the air and drop-kick them into eternity. But I digress. The presenter was obviously taken from the British school of left-wing indoctrination and shock horror at all she perceived, which wasn't very much. According to ITV and Tonight, the white Americans and the white Brits are the problem, not the black yardies in drive-by shootings and general gangland lack of respect for each other and the rest of the British and non-British public. It would seem to me to stop coddling these gangs, stop holding days of allowing them to bring their spare arms into the police and just fire back. I personally do not go for the if everyone took an eye for an eye the world would be blind adage, because it is already blind to the fact that we, especially in England, could not defend our homes or persons if pressed to do so. Is this why we only have an illegal gun culture over here now? Our police are not allowed to discipline large gatherings of people, especially if they are of mainly ethnic origins, even if they are looting, in which most countries gets the death penalty on the spot, and should have last summer. That would have got the message through that people are tired of being emotionally blackmailed into putting up with anything as long as it is dumbed down in the media. The highlight of the Tonight Show was when a very nice US policeman, who clearly was a gun expert, fired at a target. The presenter whispered in deference, "Let's see what damage this gun does." And of course, true to form, it made a bloody great hole in the target, which is what they're supposed to do, and she almost fainted. I'm afraid I almost collapsed laughing, call me cruel. So there you have it. It is us who are at fault for not having guns but letting the baddies have them. Personally, if I ever win the lottery, I want it put on record, I will immediately acquire, by fair means or foul, a huge arsenal of weapons which will be locked away, but I will know they're there for my safety and my family and if needs be, my friends and my countrymen. Now, the other point about the media is that this sexual grooming by Muslims is reaching new and unheard of heights in a certain town in England. The media will never print it, the police will never investigate, with the result the general public will remain ignorant and unaware of what they should do if one of their own is subjected to this brutal treatment. The great British public have been so indoctrinated to accept and ignore, can they ever actually want to do anything to stop it? It is a gang of Turks who operate kebab houses and who groom underage girls. One of whom, at the tender age of 13, has been forced to undergo an abortion by one of their own to avoid the so-called stigma they would be subject to if it got out. Now, apart from anything else, this girl has been raped. She is underage, so the alleged, as the police like to call them, perpetrators should be prosecuted for illegal sex with a minor. But will they? Not likely. The Turkish community is too large and too powerful in this town to question. Now, if Tonight made themselves useful, a programme on this would be informing and would promote better feeling from disenchanted Brits than skimming over the true facts about gun crime. I think our own people, who are too frightened to fight for justice because of a group of immigrants, is the most frightening thing of all. More frightening than a young black guy toting a pistol and killing off hopefully all his own gang members. To be too frightened in your own country for the safety of your own daughter, I think, is nothing short of tyranny of the media winning through. I'm not giving out the name of the town because the person that reported it is too scared to be identified. Great in your own land, isn't it? All this tripe propaganda, reality TV, non-informative papers are encouraging us to be abject, lazy, non-familial, undereducated, unambitious, unreligious and unfeeling to the fate of our sisters and brothers, and generally ignorant of the future of this country. I have just witnessed the most revolting video sent in by Scouts Bounce, and it really made me feel ill. It was about the killing of some guys of the Ahmadiyya sect in Indonesia and is truly horrible. Let me say, if this is what Muslims do to fellow Muslims, then I rest my case. In the absence of a huge tsunami to wipe away that island in its entirety, I would say, if you see lots of monkeys yelling Allahu Akbar and wielding sticks, not guns, run for your life. The peoples of this religion will kill anything, even if it is one of their own, and when they run out of them, they'll start on anything else that moves. The truly awful pictures sent in by Stop It Now on the Eid killings of animals, even young camels, was the most awful thing I've seen. Blood everywhere, hysterical Muslims cheering on small male children to cut a calf's throat however badly, and they maintain this in the name of Allah, in the name of peace be upon him, Muhammad, in the name of killing, in the name of religion? No, and no again, never in this country, over my dead and supine body. I do not condone it in their countries because every country in the world has too many Muslims in it, and every country started off non-Muslim, even Arabia. They worship a stone, for God's sake. That is what Mecca houses, a large meteorite. It isn't holy, it cannot even be claimed by one religion. It is a stone. And to quote Ahmadinejad, it should be blown off the face of the earth. Only Ahmadinejad was referring to Israel. I personally would rather have a Jew as a neighbour than an Arab. So there, I've incurred the wrath of the pro-Palestinians, the anti-Zionists and the neo-Nazis, because it seems you cannot be one without the other, but of course you can. I still, despite all the vagaries of the British people, prefer my own tribe in this country. I still think there's a lot to fight for, and I use the word fight literally. But do not rely on the media to tell you the truth, or even when it has the facts to advertise them. Because as the old saying goes, when an American gets angry, he grabs a gun. When a Brit gets angry, he writes a letter. And finally, the Robin went bobbing along. Couldn't resist it. Tesco's at it again, from Inverness, Scotland. A Tesco Extra 24-hour convenience store in the Highlands has started closing late at night to try and evict not people but a robin and a pigeon, an employee has reported to the Scotsman paper. The two birds are flying over checkout lines in the store and hanging out in the cafe for scraps of food. We've had to start closing the store for a while at 11 p.m. when it's quiet, an assistant told the newspaper. All the staff would go to the staff room and wait while the birds are chased out of the store. Last year a robin moved into another Tesco Extra in Inverness. The bird was so popular with the clientele that managers allowed it to hang out for 2 weeks. This presenter says, why are these people so thick? Feed the birds some bird food and leave it outside the store away from people and they won't come in. It's cold up there and the poor darlings are hungry. After all, birds do not have a local Tesco to shop at. Remember the wild birds this winter. I am surprised really that Tesco are not selling the poor things as one very small poussin and a larger one. Of course in the festive spirit and none halal. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar and I wish you all a very good night and will need housing. One nationalist for The World at 8 commented, "Tell your leader David Cameron to close the bloody borders." Snow closes airports overnight. Overnight snow brought Luton airports to a standstill today. Luton Stansted Airport was also closed while airport staff cleared snow from the runways. The snow had fallen overnight, causing delays to passenger safety. Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire have had the biggest snowfall up to now. A rat mad. Wind farms are to be set up in Africa at the cost of £70 per British household. One World at 8 reporter commented, the price of putting your bin out to be collected has just gone up. A Tory backbencher has commented on the destruction of British countryside that will be destroyed from the influx of immigrants wanting new homes in Britain. He spoke out in a Commons debate where he claimed that when the laws are relaxed next year, around 270,000 Romanians and Bulgarians will be allowed to come into Britain. Portraits of the district chief. Iran claims to have shot down US drone. Thought for the day, just what is the truth? And finally, and the Robin went bobbing along. UK news. Without even asking the British people in referendum, the government has suggested in its do-goody-goody style at the G7 to give £2 billion to help the third world go green.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday the 5th of December. Climate change do-gooders to give £70 of your money per household to third world. Tory backbencher Philip Holybourne opens his eyes to immigration. Rap music fan who shouted nigger at a black man is cleared of racism. Belgium, jihad on Christmas trees, welcome to Christmas cubes. Bomb explodes at offices of Greek far-right party, no injuries. Police arrest 2 accomplices in Toulouse gunman attacks. Amsterdam to create Scum villages. Italy and France on the fence waiting for a Euro handout. Protesters burnt